after the show today, but might be time for a drink, Frankie, as we wrap up week 13.
I lost track.
It looks like we're in at this point, but we have so much to talk about in an hour or two. We're going to have the Colonel on, Lieutenant Colonel Davis, back with us again, and Professor Steve Cohen talking about all the Russia stuff. And
great. He's one of my
Rebecca
favorites.
Walzer will be with us. She's one of the top wealth strategists in the country to talk about everything that's going on in the economy and what you need to know about your own portfolio, if we can get that out of her. But Frank, I want to go back to as I pour a quick Friday cocktail for us today. I was using the Ponzoni vodka.
Very
I don't know
nice.
if you're interested in that.
Nothing to follow a segment on sobriety.
That's
better
what I was
than
going to say.
some
Now, a
Ponzoni
little
vodka.
earlier in the show, we had on Mallory Newberger, and she was talking about sobriety. She was talking about how it's an addiction. It's not just an addiction; it's a disease. And she was rattling off when you asked her, "How do you know if you have a drinking problem?" Now, one of the things I know is when you drink 5 days, like every day in a week, that is one of the signs.
Right. Well, is that true? Is that true?
Well, I think over 3 times a week, then that's like an early indicator. Like once before trying to commit suicide is an indicator that you may do it in the future.
Hope that's not the
But
case.
yeah, I mean, we drink for a living. On the show, we make it look like we're drinking this vodka and stuff. But after, we have to entertain sponsors and potential sponsors and clients and friends. And, there's usually a cocktail every day. But I was getting worried, but she rattled off some things that we should look for.
Yeah.
And, we always try to educate the audience. So think about this at home. She said if you're making excuses about drinking, that's a big thing. Are you making excuses?
I am not, actually. I think my fiance thinks I'm probably too candid about my
so
drinking
you're an
and simplification.
unabashed drinker.
That's
So
right.
let's check that off. I don't make excuses either.
Right.
Are you hiding the amounts that you drink? Like, oh, I only had 2 when you had 10.
Absolutely not. I'm
Me
proud
either.
of those 5 martinis. a day.
we're not hiding our amounts. She said, now, if you don't show up for
The
work.
only time I'm hiding it is if I'm afraid somebody else might drink some of my alcohol.
There you go. She says if you don't show up for work, so it's affecting your work life. Now, I know me and you, we may not get paid a lot, but we work.
That is for
one
sure.
thing. Despite how we feel, we're always working. So we don't have that issue.
That's for sure.
She said if you neglect your family, me and you, it's family first, and we know that. So that's
Absolutely.
off. And then she said, if you ever get arrested because of drinking.
So far, not arrested.
And I don't want to jinx it, but me neither. So out of the 5 key points,
We're 5 for 5.
we're 0 for 5.
Right,
We don't have any of these.
I'll drink
so
to that. Cheers.
Shindan, my
Salud.
friend. And this guy is about to get married. For those of you,
True.
People message me every day and say, oh, Frankie's so good. And I love when Frankie rips you apart in the last segment and in the What's the Facts segment. And people don't know how much you have to overcome to be such a great on-air talent because you are drinking every day.
That's true. I also want to thank one of our great listeners on Facebook. We got a very nice note from a woman who watches us every day from Florida, Mary Frances McCarthy Bexfield. So thank you to Mary. Please continue to spread the word. If anybody would like a shout out occasionally, you can follow me on Twitter, as you can see.
Yeah, you know what?
At Frank Moreno.
There you go. I wish I had one of those.
No, hey,
but these
you gotta
guys,
know
they,
people around here.
when it's my turn, they're putting, instead of my face, they got my legs on TV. Then they got anything in the lower third. I can't even read it with these goggles on. So they basically could say anything about me.
So there are 2 quick stories that I want to get your take on.
Let's do it.
I find one of them at least very disturbing, and that is, according to a report, I can't believe this. Honestly, I cannot believe this. According to a report, 45% of Americans do not change their underwear every day. So people in America might not be changing their underwear as often as we think, according to a new survey from Tommy John. Now, consider the source, which shows that 45% of Americans wear the same pair of underwear for 2 days or longer. And listen to this, 13% of surveyed adults told the underwear company they wear the same underwear for a week or more. Guys, what's going on?
This is shocking. This is the worst breaking news I've heard yet. You mean not only am I sitting next to homeless guys with 6 bags of empty cans, the guy on the other side of me, 4.5 out of every 10 of them guys have their underwear on for more than 2 or 3 days,
That's
and
right.
some up to a week.
That's right.
No
And
wonder the subway stinks in New York.
That's for sure. And
Cripes.
we want to.
Why doesn't Tommy John pitch in? Why don't they send us some Tommy John underwear
that would be nice.
to give away on the show?
That
so
would be nice.
people change it up a little bit.
We also want to compliment and congratulate the University of Vermont because the University of Vermont ranks highest in the country, #1 when it comes to percentage of the student body that regularly smokes marijuana.
Wow.
So the University of Vermont is #1 when it comes to pot.
What university is #1 in not changing your underwear? That's the real question.
That's
yeah,
that's
you know,
quite a
I mean, is pot's legal now? Recreational pot's legal in Vermont
I
now?
believe so.
It is. I don't
think-
know why they don't just, why don't they just make it legal everywhere? I mean, we were talking about alcohol, Frankie. And, there's this state-by-state effort to get medical and then get recreational and all this other stuff. If I were you, I don't give out financial advice, investment advice. You educate yourself. You know what's suitable for you. But the pot wave is coming. CBD is legal everywhere now, marijuana. If you want to tinker around with some smaller cap stocks that may have some growth, I'd be taking a look and educating yourself on marijuana and weed stocks because that's not for next week. This is not a day trade. This is for long term. You find the right fundamental companies. You invest in the trend across the country is to legalize pot everywhere.
Now, how are the markets doing today at this point?
Well, the markets today are doing well. I mean, we're up 285 points. So the markets are up good. And again, you know me. I don't get into I sell stock short most of the time. Means I bet they're going down. So it's rare when I think you should buy something because it's hard for me to see value in many things when it comes to stocks. But the whole weed sector, and your dad was one of the forerunners. He got medical marijuana approved basically in the state of New Jersey.
He was involved, as you said,
Big comma.
in the medical marijuana industry, not the.
No, I know, but that's usually the gateway, right? They usually get the medical and then they get the rec.
Believe it or not, some of the staunchest opponents to legalization of recreational marijuana, both in New Jersey and around the country, are proponents of medical marijuana.
Right.
Because
they want a monopoly.
Exactly.
Let's call it what it is.
Exactly.
This is the capitalist greed.
Exactly. But, yeah.
Greed is good.
According to Michael
According
Douglas.
to, Gordon Gekko.
Gordon Gekko, played by Michael Douglas.
Gordon Gekko was the guy. But, kudos to the University of Vermont. I'm sure your parents are very happy that they're spending $40,000, $50,000 a year to make you the #1 pot smoking university in the country. Yay.
Yeah,
hooray.
and we've been following the story.
I like University of Vermont also.
I bet you do. We've been following the story of the Congressman Steve King, the Republican from Iowa, who made some comments defending rape and incest the other day. So now Republicans, including in the leadership, are basically offering support, open support, to Steve King's challenger. So I can't imagine Steve King is going to hold on.
Look, we're not. You may get confused sometimes because we like Trump's policies and think that we're these staunch Republicans. We're independents. We're like libertarians. And any person that represents your party in Congress that gives any sort of justification of what this guy is talking about needs to be replaced. It's that simple. So kudos. Thank you to those Republicans who are raising their voice to bring someone to challenge Steve King because, Steve King, your time is up, if you ask me. Time's up on that hashtag that was going around. I'm all for supporting whoever's running against Steve King in the Republican primary.
Now, there's a ton of issues as it relates to Russia, John. We have the investigation into Russiagate itself. How did this investigation get started? Then, in terms of our relations with Russia, believe it or not, even though we supposedly have a Russian agent as our president, relations with Russia have actually never been worse since the Cold War ended.
That's right.
So we just pulled out, the United States, just pulled out of this treaty that Gorbachev and Reagan negotiated back in the 80s, and And there was just a nuclear accident in Russia, which people are speculating was some sort of bizarre nuclear test gone wrong. So coming up next, we have the foremost expert on Russian policy in the entire country, Professor Stephen Cohen, joining us next.
Well, you want to know everything about what's going on in Russia, including the fact that they may have been testing using nuclear energy to power a long-range missile, and then when it lands, not only is the missile exploding, all the nuclear stuff in it, too. So everybody thinks Trump's a Russian agent, but we're not doing great with Russia right now, and Professor Stephen Cohen joins us next.